Under the bold and visionary leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, India has already taken tremendous actions and initiatives to tackle the global collective action problem of climate change, including inter alia, setting up of International Solar Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, domestic renewable energy target to 450 gigawatt by 2030, and continuing efforts to decouple its emissions from economic growth. As a United Nations Champions of the Earth awardee for policy leadership, the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji is a statesman who not only recognizes, knows and understands the enormous benefits of climate action, but also he acts with enormous energy to make this change. And this leadership today is more necessary than ever, not only for India, but for the whole world.
आज भारत को ये संकल्प लेना होगा कि हम आजादी के 100 साल होने से पहले भारत को एनर्जी इंडिपेंडेंट बनाएंगे। भारत आज जो भी कार्य कर रहा है उसमें सबसे बड़ा लक्ष्य है जो भारत को क्लाइमेट क्षेत्र में क्वांटम जंप देने वाला है, वो है ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन का क्षेत्र। ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन के क्षेत्र के लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति के लिए मैं आज इस तिरंगे की साक्षी में नेशनल हाइड्रोजन मिशन की घोषणा कर रहा हूं। अमृत काल में हमें भारत को ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन के प्रोडक्शन और एक्सपोर्ट का ग्लोबल हब बनाना है। ये ऊर्जा के क्षेत्र में भारत की उसको आत्मनिर्भर बढ़ाएगा और पूरे विश्व में क्लीन एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन की नई प्रेरणा भी बनेगा।
This will not only help India to make a new progress in the field of energy self-reliance, but will also become a new inspiration for clean energy transition all over the world. The International Climate Summit 2021, powering India's hydrogen ecosystem, is a progressive step to achieve the objective set by the Honorable Prime Minister to make India a global hub for green hydrogen production and export. Conceived by Dr. J.P. Gupta, Chairman EAC Industry, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, ICS 2021 is an initiative of the Environment Committee of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. As a precursor to the COP26 scheduled during November 2021 at Glasgow, the International Summit is bringing together policymakers, regulators, Nobel laureates, industry titans, experts, scientists, and over 25,000 stakeholders from across the world to discussions on all related topics, propelling India as a key player in the global hydrogen economy. The summit agenda includes release of a special knowledge book titled Self-Reliant India, Harnessing the Power of Hydrogen by the Indo-Norwegian Alliance, the launch of the National Hydrogen Portal, recommendations on the formation of an International Hydrogen Alliance, similar to the International Solar Alliance, and the setting up of Centers of Excellence in select universities across India that will assist building to a strong knowledge base and R&D. Fostering global collaboration in establishing sustainable routes for production, storage, transportation, distribution of hydrogen. The summit would also provide a host of commercial opportunities, including securing joint venture, technology, supply chain, or international funding partners for production, storage, transportation and distribution. A catalytic moment presenting the next generation clean energy opportunities. The summit is dedicated to achieving the Honorable Prime Minister's recently announced target of achieving 100% self-reliance in energy by 2047.
Good afternoon. A warm welcome to everyone to this fourth session of the International Climate Summit 2021, focused on powering India's hydrogen ecosystem, that is being held in New Delhi on 3rd September 2021 as a precursor to COP26. This session, convened virtually, is devoted to the topic, setting up of centers of excellence in hydrogen. I'm Ambassador Ajay Malhotra, the session moderator. Retired from the Indian Foreign Service, I have long been associated with energy, environment, and linked development issues, even participating in the first UN conference on new and renewable sources of energy, convened in Nairobi in August 1981, over 4 decades ago. We have traveled far since then, and the global demand for energy too has grown by leaps and bounds. This has been accompanied by a growing recognition of the urgent need to tap into greener and renewable energy sources. The IPCC 6th Assessment Report, Working Group 1, released on 9th August 2021, brought out the importance of replacing fossil fuels by alternate energy sources and doing so on a war footing. And green hydrogen as a clean fuel presents itself as a most promising alternative. Indeed, India's geographical location, climatic conditions, and variety of abundant renewable energy sources like solar and wind, make it eminently suitable to emerge as a major global hub for clean hydrogen production and export. I will highlight a few points to provide context to our session today. Firstly, in November 2020, TERI and the Norwegian energy company Greenstat Hydrogen India Private Limited signed an MOU to cooperate on research and thought leadership to accelerate the introduction of hydrogen technology in India. One of that MOU's objectives is to establish a Norwegian Center of Excellence on hydrogen in India, and discussions on it are underway. The MOU also required both organizations to focus on hydrogen applications in city public transport and empowering river navigation. Second, as a precursor to the World Sustainable Development Summit 2021, TERI had launched on 16 December 2020 a report titled The Potential Role of Hydrogen in India, Harnessing the Hype. It pointed out that by 2030, the cost of green hydrogen from renewable energy will fall more than 50%, and it will start to compete with hydrogen from fossil fuels. Thirdly, on 19 February 2021, a statement of intent was signed between a major public sector unit, Indian Oil, and Greenstat Hydrogen India Private Limited to set up a center of excellence on hydrogen. Indeed, in July this year, Indian Oil also announced it will build India's first green hydrogen plant at its Mathura refinery. And from the Indian private sector, the chairman of Reliance reaffirmed today morning at this summit that the company would aggressively implement major green hydrogen investments. Fourthly, in a very important visionary step, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched on August 15 this year a national hydrogen mission, emphasizing that green hydrogen will play a crucial role in helping India mitigate climate change. He visualized India becoming a global hub for green hydrogen production and exports, and inspiring a clean energy transition the world over. Fifth, a fortnight ago, TERI launched with Prime Metals Technologies Austria and Siemens India a report on green steel through hydrogen direct reduction, which examines the hydrogen direct reduction process, outlines the potential of green hydrogen technologies, and discusses the stability of this technology and its appropriateness for India. Finally, as part of ongoing Indian government efforts to create an enabling green hydrogen ecosystem, Minister Jitendra Singh launched a national hydrogen portal at our summit today morning. At the same time, potential speed breakers remain in our path that would have to be overcome. So, for example, there is a shortage of qualified engineers who can install, monitor, operate, and maintain integrated fuel cells and hydrogen systems. Capacity building is a major concern. Indeed, establishing centers of excellence seeks to put in place capacity building across the entire value chain in hydrogen. There are also potential safety hazards that would need to be understood and guarded against, including through conduct of risk assessments and safety studies. In the India-Norway context, the envisaged centers of excellence in hydrogen would need to be a cooperative effort between government bodies, industry, research institutions, academia, indeed all stakeholders. To explore this issue in depth, I have a panel of 4 distinguished speakers from whom I would invite opening statements of 10 to 15 minutes, leaving about 25 to 30 minutes for a discussion. Our keynote speaker for this session is Mr. Christian Valdes Carter. Mr. Carter is the Director of Innovation Norway in India and also Commercial Counselor at the Royal Norwegian Embassy in New Delhi. He holds a master's degree in law from the University of Bergen, has held various leadership roles and board positions in privately held companies and public-private partnerships, and comes with wide experience from the Norwegian business community. His career has spanned numerous sectors, including fisheries, smart cities, tourism, transport and communications, port development, offshore energy, and subsea energy. We are delighted to have Mr. Carter with us, and I request him to address us as a keynote speaker on the topic, setting up of centers of excellence on hydrogen. You have the floor, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Excellency. I hope that I'm audible. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from Innovation Norway and the Norwegian Embassy in New Delhi. It is great to be here, and I just came back from a very inspiring inaugural session at the Taj, and it was really encouraging to see so many distinguished guests and so many inspiring proceedings. So I look forward also to a very fruitful session together with you all, my co-speakers. So as I said earlier today, during the opening session, a successful transition to a sustainable energy future will require many things. It will require technology, it will require new business models, large-scale investments in technology and infrastructure. It will require regulatory frameworks, roadmaps. It will require international cooperation, and of course, as I also pointed out, leadership. In Norway, where I come from, we have many different projects within hydrogen. At the moment, we are developing along 50 different hydrogen projects in more than 50 locations. And this is it's a huge effort, and it involves more than 100 different companies and research institutions across the entire hydrogen value chain. A lot of these projects, they include the production of green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, red hydrogen from biogas combined with CCS, carbon capture and storage. But hydrogen is it's more than just production of clean energy. And we are also developing technologies, solutions, and safety standards for storage, transportation, distribution, and application of hydrogen, not least. Now, none of this would have been possible without close and transparent cooperation between government, local municipalities, businesses, the research community, and of course, universities and academia. And an important platform and enabler for such a cooperation are the clusters, or the so-called centers of excellence. So what is a center of excellence? Well, a cluster or a center of excellence is a collaborative competence center established by joint efforts between government institutions, agencies, industry, research, and academia. The very same players that are now conducting several projects, not only in Norway, but in different parts of the world. What they offer is facilitation of business collaboration, as well as information and guidelines to accelerate business development. So even before the green shift, we had several clusters around the world. Many of them you already know from different parts of the world, like Silicon Valley. In Norway, we had very productive dynamic clusters within the oil and gas business. Now, some of them have emerged, and they have been a very important catalyst for what we call the green shift in Norway. And what kind of is very about the clusters is they are often co-located in industrial areas, well-developed industrial areas with well-developed value chains. Sometimes they're also co-located with important and strong research institutions. The most important and the most successful cluster, they have facilitated spin-outs, business collaborations, and in all commercialization of business ideas. If my laptop hadn't crashed an hour ago, I would have shown you a very, very nice slide of different clusters, not only in Norway, but around the world, that have emerged into powerful centers of excellence, or what we say now in Norway, centers of expertise. I will maybe submit it later today. Now, if we try to transfer this to an Indian context, we know that India is quite uniquely placed to develop a hydrogen ecosystem. It has a lot of wind, it has solar energy, and is developing a quite substantial, is emerging into quite a substantial energy market, not only for its own needs, but also it could very well become an export hub, as was emphasized earlier today in the inaugural session. There are, however, some developments that need to be made with respect to infrastructure, technology, storage, distribution, and safety standards, and so on. And the way forward would be to
I think we have lost Mr. Carter. He was having some problem with his laptop overheating. We'll come back to him in that case. He was really giving us a very useful insight into how we needed not only technology, but new business models, funding, meeting, putting in place regulations, looking at transportation, distribution, and facilitating business collaboration, and locating clusters in a way that they can benefit from being close to each other. But I don't think his laptop is still functioning, so we'll come back to him. I now turn to my next speaker, which would be Madame Ellie Amot, who's the Executive Vice President of SINTEF, based in Norway. SINTEF is one of Europe's largest independent research organizations, and we are proud to be not only associated with it, but also to have her address and take part in this panel discussion today. I give the floor to Madame Amot. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for the kind introduction. Good evening to all of you. I think I have some slides to show you today, so I will share my screen. Give me a second. This one. Share. Hopefully you see my title of my talk today. It's a great pleasure for me to be invited to this influential summit, which shows out India's ambition and leadership's role in mitigating the climate change. And also thank the organizer of the climate summit, acknowledging the importance of the Norway-India cooperation in this huge energy transition we are facing. I call my talk this reflection on success factors, because we all agree to this ambition and we all understand the kind of urgency facing us, not at least from the 6th assessment report launched by IPCC in August. So we see that there is a very urgency present. And in a sustainable energy system for the future, I think hydrogen will be an essential part. And wrong way, let me do it like that. And I think there are a series of success factors I would like to draw your attention to, and I have to give a warning. This might be European biased perspective, but I think there are some common ground and takeaways for this journey for India to take. And hopefully you see that alluding to what I think is essential, that building a center of excellence is a very good idea. So let's just take it off from here. Ambitious strategies and specific targets are required to guide us challenge we see ahead of us, this energy transition. And I think it's appreciated that India has established a national hydrogen mission, and that the Indian Hydrogen Alliance has set clear goals to develop the strategic framework, targets, and not least secure funding, because this is also an essential part. And last but not least, we are very happy, and it's been our pleasure at SINTEF to contribute to this knowledge book that's being launched during this event. In Europe, there are several member states have very ambitious targets and followed up with budget allocation. EU in the 10 billion euro range, so it will take a lot of money to do this journey, but I think it's also an opportunity to earn some money. One of the key targets for the European Union is a dramatic increase in the installed capacity for water electrolysis. So yes, Norwegian companies, I think Mr. Carter would have mentioned, we have this hydrogen strategy from last year, and this year there was a hydrogen roadmap with targets, which is quite essential for the journey we have to take. Recently, the authorities launched that they will fund a research center for environmental friendly energy, focusing on hydrogen and ammonia. Very good. Another success factor is the partnership and the investment part. What we have seen over the last approximately 13-15 years, we have developed a very strong European public-private partnership on fuel cells and hydrogen. And this body, Hydrogen Europe, has together with the European Commission consolidated the European hydrogen community. And I think this is also important. This is not a competitive act, it's a collaborational act to transfer this energy. And Hydrogen Europe is now counting more than 300 members from industry and research. So yes, it's important. And SINTEF was one of the founding members of the hydrogen research in Europe back in 2008. And we have been participating in shaping the strategic agenda through inclusive and transparent strategic processes. And in this public-private partnership, industry is co-financing the effort by investing as much as the Commission. This is a 50-50% sharing. I think this is important because you get a sharing, of course, of the cost, but also the commitment of the industry because when you pay, you are committed. Very important. And what has been achieved? For SINTEF, we have coordinated 5 consecutive projects in hydrogen production through PEM electrolysis. And the project started from material development, via stack and system analysis to demonstration activities. And although applied research and development is SINTEF's core business, we also work together with technology. We work actively with technology deployment. And I think one milestone was reached this year by the 10 megawatt PEM electrolyzer in operation at the Rhineland refinery in Germany. It's a Shell refinery in Germany, 10 megawatt. I think it's a world record for electrolyzer capacity installed. But we also got funding, and we are in the contract phase of a follow-up project, increasing this 10 megawatt to 100 megawatt. So this is quite important. This is achievement from this public-private partnership. And but I'm also proud to say that based on our long-term competence building, SINTEF was able to establish a new private company based on technology developed at the SINTEF called HiStar. Small yet, but hopefully grow big in the years to come. Just to mention, the fuel cells and hydrogen joint undertaking, which I've alluded to, we have been partner in 30 other projects, and that's a lot of projects. But during this partnership, the project has been a total funding of 300 million euros. And it's about technology development, but it also gives us a continuous development of competence. And I think that's important. And the strong partnership which is required within this PPP is with industry, but also with the universities. So we have been working together in sort of co-creation way of working. When I say co-creation, it leads to the next success factor, and that's about the technology and energy suppliers. We can develop as much technical knowledge as we want, but it's when it comes to action we really see the effect, and that's what we want. So Europe is a global technology leader in some markets, and this drives some leading European and also some Norwegian companies which are pursuing shares in the future market we see. I said earlier, it will take us some money. It will cost a lot to develop a new energy system, but there are opportunities as well. And these companies are pursuing this market share for a new world where hydrogen is a very important part in the system. And given Norway's unique and vast energy resources, water, we can export both blue and green hydrogen, but we also think we can export hydrogen technologies and system solution. And that's quite similar to what India sees, vast energy resources which can be turned into hydrogen. And I know you have some natural gas as well, which might be turned blue if we could put some CCS onto it. But we can do this. We can too have this public-private partnership. We can have the investment, but turning into hydrogen will need a new framework. This will be a key success factor as well. And acknowledging that other speakers in this session is more prominent in this area than me, I will skip this and say later on you will hear about this, but this is a key. This framework has to be developed accordingly together with this transition. And one of the projects we are doing is called SHIFT, and maybe you can see on the bottom line the industry actors, the technology providers, but also the regulatory bodies in one and the same project, ensuring that a swift framework to be developed, which is without compromising on safety. But as Mr. Malhotra presented, we need to get the cost down, and scaling up is one issue, and utilizing the early market opportunities to scale, to try to test and to develop further is quite essential. And the feedback from this early market deployment project are very crucial to provide future R&D activities. As Mr. Carter was saying before, he was overheated, or the laptop was overheated. There are a lot of ongoing projects in Norway, and I'll show you some map of where they are different projects. It's in transport. It's both on land and on land, on sea, but we're also in the metallurgical industry. So this gives us a valuable input in the scaling up. And this is also seen by what we call in Norway the Hydrogen Council, which is an advisory body in Norway. So the continued technology development will be needed if we are going to succeed in a transition into this new system. It was earlier mentioned that there is a gap on education and competence building. We have, since SINTEF, during SINTEF's 75 years, we have been working very closely with industry, with multidisciplinary contract research. But as important as the working with industries is also working with the universities. Because when we work with the co-creation between industry, our research institutes, and universities, will ensure that the educated young people will have the knowledge and the talent for working with industry, or continue research at the university, or research at the RTOs. So this co-creation is essential, because we all need skilled workforce, be it in the industry, be it in the university, or at the research institute. So this is very important to ensure that we require this skilled workforce, because this is SINTEF, 2,000 employees, and half of them holds a PhD, and we have employees, like you see, for 72 countries, and we have 1/3 of women. The universities are our main part where we get those talents to work for us. So it's not by accident that I elaborate on this education and competence building, because it is a shortage, and I think that that the Center of Excellence is a promising instrument for increased collaboration between industry and university. But I also think such a center could be a promising part for a collaboration with India and Norway, and a Center of Excellence might be the building block we need. Time is running fast in good company. I hope you've seen that my reflection after being in this business for some time. First, the strategies, ambitions has to be in place. And this high-level event confirms India's commitment. We have seen that this public-private partnership are powerful instruments in bringing technology into the industry and starting as early movers and starting the long journey of development and cost cuts on the technology. And I really look forward to see the next speaker talking about this framework, because we can't continue this journey without a proper framework for the regulations. And I truly believe that India and Norway, I think we are somewhat similar, but also very different. We are 4 million people, so that's a huge difference. But the energy part and the way we can play a role in developing technology from our vast energy resources is the common ground. And I think this Center of Excellence is a way of providing competence sharing between all the stakeholders in the entire value chain, where we can put industry co-creation, education, and in the end get both skilled workforces and new technology at a price which is affordable. But I think this is a very good way to start. But one lesson learned from the time I've been working with this is we need to increase the pace. So I think India could see what we've done in Europe, but don't look at the pace. Be much more aggressive. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
I thank Ellie Amot for her very impressive presentation, and also thank you for picking up where Mr. Christian Carter got cut off. At least you could bring out some of the points that perhaps he might have wanted to draw our attention to when his laptop overheated. Thank you also for sharing Norway's hydrogen strategy. And I must say it was very impressive to see the vast number of projects being implemented and the menu of future projects and possibilities on which we can cooperate. My next speaker, I don't see Dr. Scott in my list, so I'll go ahead and give the floor to Professor Jan Bakke. Dr. Bakke's key qualifications pertain to explosion and fire safety, process safety and technical safety, and risk analysis. He has vast experience in the field. He has served as chairman of the Process Safety Subcommittee of the International Organization of Oil and Gas Producers. He has also been involved with project and operation support in Statoil as a safety technology specialist. You have the floor, Dr. Bakke.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I have a presentation attempt to share. See my presentation now?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My company, Gexxcon, is a knowledge partner to this summit. Our focus is on safety, especially related to major accidents. So my talk will be about the safety part of our journey towards a hydrogen community. Since the 1970s, we have been working for a number of industries, perhaps mostly oil and gas, but also other industries that experience fire, explosion, and toxic hazards. So that is the basis for the competence we have today and why we are acting as a knowledge partner now to this summit. How dangerous is hydrogen? In order to achieve correct design and operating routines, it is important to understand the physical characteristics of hydrogen and its behavior in a safety context. To this end, we, for example, need the ability to accurately predict what happens upon loss of containment of hydrogen, which I think in terms of safety is a major issue. Hydrogen is different from more familiar substances like hydrocarbons, for example, and it needs to be handled differently as well. Just some bullet points here to illustrate the difference. It's extremely buoyant, 14 times lighter than air, rises 6 times faster than natural gas. Of course, that can be a benefit when it comes to safety, because if you have a release of hydrogen outside in the atmosphere, it would tend to go upwards very rapidly away from potential ignition sources. It is very flammable. Hydrogen molecules are very small, so it leaks easily. It burns very fast, and it can easily translate from, call it a normal fire, to what we call, or explosion, a deflagration, to what we call a detonation, which is a very, very severe event. We don't need much energy to ignite hydrogen, much less than, for example, hydrocarbons, about 10% of the ignition energy. And we also see something special about hydrogen, that it exhibits a so-called negative Joule-Thomson effect, which means that as it leaks out and depressurizes, it can actually heat up rather than cool, which is typical for hydrocarbon gases, which means that under certain circumstances, maybe this effect can actually lead to what we call auto-ignition or self-ignition. You don't need external ignition sources that can ignite by itself. So we need knowledge, and we need to develop designs and operating procedures, as I've written here, so that hydrogen can be implemented as an energy carrier without unacceptable societal risk. I have used the term here, Center of Excellence in Hydrogen Safety. Of course, I understand that there is a wider concept in place here also, but hydrogen safety is important. There is no need to start from scratch when we discuss hydrogen and hydrogen safety. Over a number of years now, there has been done substantial research into behavior and characteristics of hydrogen from a safety perspective. And this, by choosing the right knowledge partners, could be a good starting point for centers of excellence in India. There is significant experience in performing large-scale experiments, and we also have today software that can be used to calculate consequences and do risk analysis related to the use of hydrogen. This kind of knowledge can be used all through the value chain, including some examples here: electrolysis, liquefaction plants, methane steam reforming plants, maritime applications, which there is a focus in Norway on that now, metallurgy, nuclear industry, vehicle fueling, and also in accident investigations, you need to have an understanding. The photo on the right-hand side there is actually a photo from an accident we had in Norway. I think it was last year or the year before, where there was a hydrogen refueling station where there was an explosion. So it is important that we have control when we work with hydrogen, so that we don't end up in having many accidents. Because if you have many accidents, and if some of them are quite big, then you can have problems with societal acceptance of hydrogen as an energy carrier. So it is important that we can control this well. We have done, and now I hope everything works, we have done tests with hydrogen since the last 20 years or so. We've been active in this field. And I have a video here which shows you an example of a test in a project called HyC. And this is hydrogen safety in energy applications. We did a number of tests there, and let me see now if technology is good to me. So this is a sketch of container, and here you see the right-hand container filled with a mixture of hydrogen and gas, hydrogen and air, and we got ignited it, and we got an explosion, a relatively strong explosion, which you can see better when you see the replay in slow motion. One issue here, and that doesn't actually only apply to hydrogen, but in general to flammable substances, is that when you have explosions, you may not only have local damage of the equipment where the explosion happens, but as you see, there were things flying through the air, and that can lead to damage at the distance and hurting and even killing people. Okay, so hydrogen, easily ignitable, very explosive. We can have high overpressures, and it is the overpressure that generates damage from these scenarios. Let me see another one. Yeah, here is the next one. Now, what we have done, because the question is, can we protect ourselves against these types of accidents? Well, we can at least control them to some extent, reduce their impact. One of the ways of doing that is to use what we call vent devices, which means that there are weak parts of, in this case, of the roof, which when the pressure starts to develop inside the container, then these open up very quickly and ensure that pressure doesn't reach very high levels. On the lower part here, you see the same explosion as we see experimentally on the top, where we now use software, so-called computational fluid dynamics software called FLAX, to calculate the same scenario. So I think it is fair to say that we have knowledge and we have tools to help us in addressing safety with regard to hydrogen. However, we don't know everything. There are many gaps, and I just listed some, in the industry's knowledge pertaining to hydrogen and safety. And I think that centers of excellence in hydrogen safety in India, together with expertise also from abroad, can take a leading role in filling gaps that are there. For example, we need to know more about jet fires of hydrogen. We need to know more about formation of liquid hydrogen pools, because liquefied hydrogen is one of the issues that need to be addressed. When you have liquefied hydrogen, then you will experience, upon release to atmosphere, rapid phase transition. That is an issue. What we have, boiling liquid expanding vapor explosions can be an issue. Evaporation and fires from liquid hydrogen pools. What we call transition from deflagration to detonation, which means that you get much more severe incidents than the less severe. And also this issue about spontaneous ignition that I mentioned. We need to understand more about how and when that can happen. Today it's a theory, it may happen, but we can't really calculate when and if and when it happens. So experimental work, model development are both required. Okay. Now, centers of excellence in India. Gexxcon is involved today as a knowledge partner in setting up 2 centers of excellence for process safety. One of them related to chemical industry with UPL and Froth Rotary Institute of Chemical Technology. They have just changed names now, but I forget the new name. And also a center of excellence for process safety related to oil and gas industry with Nayara Energy as industrial partner and IIT Delhi as the academic institution we work with. The first one with UPL and SRICT has been underway for some time now. The second one is in its infancy. We are just starting it as of now. What we do see is that we need to be able to secure momentum. I hope I'm not, how do you say it, saying something that is a bad manner here, but we have seen that if involvement from top management is not there or is to some extent lacking, then momentum can be low or slow. So it is necessary to have involvement from top. It is necessary to have a clear mandate for these centers of excellence. Sufficient funding is required and resources are needed. Otherwise, it goes slow. I think we can all agree that what is happening around us in the world now indicates that climate changes, they seem to come faster than maybe we thought not long ago. So there is really no time to lose in facilitating this transition to a greener energy supply that we are talking about. LNG, the change to LNG took a number of years. We don't have many years now. We need to act and act fast. So, potential way forward, and I'm happy to see that I'm quite in line with what Ms. Aamodt talked about earlier also. We need to integrate contributions from important stakeholders like knowledge partners, research and teaching institutions, and also funding industry, and of course authorities, not regulatory bodies, not to forget. We need to develop more fundamental knowledge. We need to codify or include this knowledge into our calculation tools. We need to develop and verify safety best practices. And as has been mentioned, we don't have the manpower yet that is required. We need to teach students. So the importance of teaching institutions here in the COEs is crucial. We need to contribute to development of laws and regulations, and we need to have an up and running consulting industry that can apply this knowledge, submit this knowledge to industry and to government. So that was my contribution here. Thank you for your attention.
I thank Dr. Bakke for his very valuable contribution. I think you have clearly brought out that there are issues relating to safety linked with hydrogen, its buoyancy, its flammability, the fact that it leaks, it is explosive, etc. And those container explosions were rather scary, if I may say so. And you're right, we need to be very careful because if you have some incidents at the outset, it might push things in the wrong direction. So the importance of mitigating risks is there. But I think, as you also said, there's no need to start from scratch. Your organization is a knowledge partner, and especially if you have the right knowledge partner, there's you can set up the pace. And as Madame Aamodt said, India needs to go at this at a much faster pace than the European Union countries did, though they started much earlier. We have the advantage of learning from the experiences that you have had, and like you showed, the use of wind devices to release pressure, etc. I was very happy to learn about the two centers of excellence that you have set up for process safety. This is a movement in the right direction. I see one was with UPL and SRICT, and the other with Nayara Energy and IIT Delhi. So even though they are at a very initial stage, I think from centers of excellence in hydrogen safety, you move to a more broader concept of centers of excellence generally, as in fact, Mr. Carter was telling us initially. There's merit in co-location, etc. which helps the business collaboration and in moving forward in clusters, perhaps in some cases, especially for a country like India, where our states are huge in terms of population and capabilities and the suction requirement of hydrogen, etc. My next speaker would be Mr. Umesh Sehdev. He's a textile engineer who has undertaken specialized courses from institutions like the Imperial College in London. He has 5 decades of professional expertise in planning and development of industrial projects, covering a very wide spectrum of industries, also managing businesses of global companies, international collaborations, joint ventures, and managing private equity. He's widely traveled globally for implementing projects and doing business, and he draws upon a very large international professional network. I give the floor to Mr. Sehdev. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm really privileged to be here on this particular forum. Very important. This is the International Climate Summit. And I thank my co-speakers to be providing us so insight about this whole ecosystem within hydrogen and so many other things. Just to start, like as countries across the globe carefully tread on the boulevard of a sustainable future, hydrogen is being looked at as a key energy driver in the race for net zero. What adds to its attractiveness is that it is likely to become what we call it as a freedom fuel for many countries that are currently dependent upon imported oil and gas for meeting their energy needs, which is a big drain on their economic resources. Renewable energy, once dismissed as too unreliable, unpredictable, expensive to produce at scale, has now become commonplace, driving the green hydrogen potential. According to Hydrogen Council report, at the commencement of 2021, over 30 countries released hydrogen roadmaps. Industry announced about 200 hydrogen projects, and ambitious investment plans with governments worldwide committed $70 billion in public funding. It is predicted that hydrogen will account for 24% of world's power use by 2050 and sees 3 main drivers behind the growth of the industry: falling cost of green hydrogen, new technology, and government incentives to promote decarbonization. CNB reports that hydrogen will generate US $2.5 trillion in direct revenue and US $4 trillion of revenue from associated products such as fuel cell vehicles, with a total market potential reaching US $11 trillion by 2050. Suddenly, the game-changing fuel is finding mention in many national policy and hydrogen strategy documents of countries, creating international alliances and more ambitious commitments. India recognizes green hydrogen as the future fuel of the world, or I would say, carrier of energy. And government very recently announced setting up of the National Hydrogen Mission to define complete hydrogen roadmap, with the ambitious aim of becoming the new global hub of green hydrogen and possibly big exporter. I think that is achievable given the past performance we have in the renewable energy. India has achieved one of the world's lowest costs of renewable energy, particularly solar, at INR sub 2 rupees, 1.99 rupees per kilowatt, or almost about US $27 to 30 per megawatt. And with about 200 gigawatts of renewable power capacity by 2022, is well placed to achieve status of low-cost producer of green hydrogen. Subject to the availability of cost-effective technologies and equipment, with right supportive regulatory framework, it can achieve its targets in reasonable time. It has already started working in the direction of setting up numbers of centers of excellences with leading technical institutions, research centers, and corporates in a bid to not only become self-sustaining, but an exporter of economically priced commodity. Norway, through its various good offices like Innovation Norway and cluster of Norwegian hydrogen companies, has become the lead knowledge and alliance partner in this mission with India. It has already engaged with a number of R&D institutions like IITs and large corporates like Indian Oil or Reliance. It has planned and facilitated creation of a number of centers of excellences all over India. These centers of excellences will enable multidisciplinary engagement via research in technologies and processes, and the process economization and efficiency, training next generation of pool of qualified people to create critical mass for the hydrogen ecosystem. While these centers of excellences would be working on technology, economization of processes and learnings, we at Hydrogenium Resources Private Limited, a recently formed company of 4 professionals, each with lifetime of experience and passionate toward environment sustainability and investments, have conceptualized and created our own, I won't say now, but I call it Center of Commercialization of Hydrogen. Maybe I would like to call it Center of Excellence for. We need to achieve certain landmarks before we can do that. We tend to actually, under this particular Center for Commercialization of Hydrogen, as we call it, we say, or we, put it like COE, we call it COE, Center of Commercialization of Hydrogen. We tend to facilitate center of excellences of research into commerce and make COE as the interface between research and industry, investors, and global business partners that bridge the challenging gap between innovations and commercial exploitation to create investment opportunities. COE will facilitate ecosystem support at the right time to turn any good research into innovative products and services. It covers that stage of innovation trajectory that is most difficult to attract private investment. And that's why we created Hydrogenium Resources, just to be a part for the development of hydrogen ecosystem in India. Hydrogenium's COE will focus on the following major aspects. Number 1, it will be the interface and catalyst, or rather I would call it commercial catalyst between hydrogen-centric research and industry through some innovative financial proposals, financial system, or financial, I will call it as instrument. And secondly, we'll create, or rather already in the process of creating, global alliances of comprehensive hydrogen value chain stakeholders, including research and techno-financial resources. Thirdly, we shall be identifying, mentoring, supporting investments, and comprehensive management of hydrogen-focused technology startups till they are able to be matured in their business. Fourth is creating an alliance and cluster of investors all over the globe, particularly from Europe, America, and Australia. We already have into it, of the venture capital funds, private equities, to create investment resource for the venture funds for startups in hydrogen value chain, industry-focused research centers, and Series A and B investments into scale-ups. And finally, we will be actually trying to put something more innovative into it. And we'll try to monetize this energy transition through low carbon hydrogen, and planning and in the process to develop a market-based instrument that would create incentives to reduce emissions where they are most cost-effective. With a mission to become a significant influencer and business facilitators in the hydrogen value chain, we have created exclusive global alliances and are in the process of finalizing partnerships with global business strategists, business developers, advisors, mentors, and business promoters to create large resource of stakeholders that would enable Hydrogenium to provide value-added and exclusive services in the entire value chain of hydrogen. Starting with Europe, we would cover all other continents very soon. We believe oriented hydrogen-focused startups are key to create large bandwidth of commercial possibilities. As such, we are fully addressed to the needs of these startups and provide comprehensive basically mentoring, management support, right from incubation of ideas to the entire growth cycle till commercial maturity. We are supplementing our startup support services to cover other global regions by creating international alliances of startup management and investment companies. Starting with Europe, we have recently entered into an exclusive association with Central Europe's leading startup management group and venture capital funds for joint development and sustainability project startups between Europe, V4 countries, and India. This also gives Hydrogenium very good opportunity to provide services to these countries and get business promoters, partners, and energy companies that are looking to diversify and seek partnerships with Indian companies to invest in India. Because of the size of these countries, there is limitation in economies of scales and constraints in operational cost, which presents good opportunities for this country to set up joint ventures in India and have proportionate rights on the product to be imported back into their countries. We have similarly identified a number of countries in developed as well as developing regions, where we can line up associations, collaborations, and alliances. While they have competences in technologies, but further development and commercialization at an economic level is not easy. So instead of production in those countries, they would like to invest in countries like India and import back the product at much competitive, rather cheaper price. The present phase in hydrogen getting unprecedented interest in world is viewed as the next big investment opportunity. With Bank of America reports, compare this opportunity to be at par to internet pre.com in 19th and smartphone revolution of 2007. Hydrogenium, taking this opportunity seriously, has conceptualized and started working with a holistic approach within the entire hydrogen ecosystem to facilitate development of this economy in India and globally. The next, our attempt is to monetize transition to net zero activities. Of course, subject to regulatory procedures and approvals, we propose to create a tradable financial instrument basically linked to greenhouse gas offsets achieved through production and use of low carbon hydrogen within its entire supply chain as well as application spectrum. As a first step toward this, we have started developing and shall soon offer for deployment a real-time technology platform, we call it Hydrogen Cloud, that will remotely capture, monitor, analyze emissions and greenhouse gas data within hydrogen ecosystem. Hydrogenium understands climate change and sustainability a bit closely. Its associated company Logic Ladder is the leader of globally proven remote monitoring digital platform, the Sustainability Cloud. This platform is already providing services to leading companies in India and abroad to monitor, capture, analyze, and report whole range of emission data and GHG footprinting of many industries and activities, including emissions through Scope 1 and Scope 2 system. It is universally flexible, totally agnostic to any hardware, data source, communication platform, protocol or cloud. So it can be flexibly used in whole of the industry at any time, just by a small system integration. We are now further supplementing this technology platform to include hydrogen and the module to be called the hydrogen cloud. As the first step to creating the system for monetizing environmental attributes, subject to regulatory approvals and government policies, this hydrogen cloud, the data capture platform, would be further transformed into offset registry utilizing blockchain model and artificial intelligence. Data so captured by hydrogen cloud would be analyzed and converted into offsets, and this digital registry would be able to issue, register, and manage all transactions of such offset as a tradable instrument, of course, all subject to government regulations and policies toward this. All stakeholders in the supply chain, producers, manufacturers, applications in transportation sectors, including all air, road, air, rail, marine, and all types of industry and industrial activities, hydrogen energy users and other consumer activities will be able to earn offsets and monetize in line with government policy through this digital registry. We at Hydrogenium consider ourselves as the key partners to support the holistic development of hydrogen ecosystem and hydrogen economy in the country, and would be pleased to be of service to anyone interested in hydrogen or related sustainability and ESG activities and projects. I sincerely thank Dr. J.P. Gupta, Chair of International Climate Summit and PhD Chamber, to give me and Hydrogenium the opportunity to place my views before you. I sincerely thank my fellow speakers for their inside views, and His Excellency Ajay Malhotra to moderate this session so effectively. Thank you very much.
I thank Mr. Sahdev. Let me in turn compliment Hydrogenium for its very entrepreneurial approach. Like Mr. Bake spoke of Centers of Excellence in Hydrogen Safety, you have told us about Centers of Excellence for Commercialization of Hydrogen, or what you call COE, which would serve as an interface between research and development, industry, financial bodies, and many stakeholders. And I also compliment you that while we are thinking of doing a partnership in many ways between Norway and India, you're looking beyond and seeing how you can extend this into Central Europe with the V4. Yes, also the fact that you would be exploring tradable financial instruments. This all shows that your company is probably going to end up being an important player worth taking note of as we seek to build up the hydrogen ecosystem in India. So thank you once again. I see we still don't have Dr. Scott Davis, but we do have Mr. Christian Valdes-Carter back with us. He has told me that he is now participating from his phone, which works better. So in case he would like to make a comment on what he has heard or any residual point that he wanted to make, I'd be happy to give him the floor at this moment. Mr. Christian Carter, you have the floor.
Thank you, Excellency.
Many good points from my fellow speakers. What I just want to comment is that every strong sector has a strong value chain. A value chain is different parts of a sector, and there is a saying that a chain is not, or a group or whatever, a sector is not stronger than the weakest part. And my point is that in order to have a sector or an industry, a new industry, in this case within hydrogen, we need to include all the parts. We need to find them and identify them. The good thing is that they are pretty much already identified. So we have kind of a head start here in India. So I think that a center of excellence to kind of transfer it into that context needs to start there to identify the different parts. So we kind of get this value chain operating from the start. So that is one point. The second point is that I think that now that the hydrogen economy is kind of getting started, I think that the centers of excellence, all the clusters, have the opportunity now to scale up. And as I said in the inaugural session, international cooperation is very important to create a global market in order to make hydrogen the new kind of replacement for fossil fuels, because eventually it is fossil fuels that it has to replace. So that is the second point. And I noted that Ms. Eli Omod said that we need to move faster. I totally agree with her. And I think that we have a very good starting point to do so. Also because we have the Indian government that has shown great foresight in launching the hydrogen mission, the National Hydrogen Mission, and we have the follow-ups from the business community like Reliance that have announced their plans to invest $10 billion in the space of 3 years. So I think that we have the interest. It makes business sense to the business community. So I think that we will move faster than we have done before. And that was also a very valid point from Dr. Bakke. We spent 20 years in carving out the regulations for within LNG. We don't have that time. The time is now.
I thank Mr. Carter. That was a very important 2 or 3 points you have made. One is that everything that we would be looking at really would be multi-sectoral, and thus a center of excellence will serve to bring it all together. As you said, there has to be a strong value chain operating, and we have the advantage now on drawing on the Norwegian experience. And absolutely, I think our Prime Minister has clearly indicated, and both the public sector and private sector, through actions which always speak louder than words, have shown that they are ready to move faster. So we have in place, I think, the 2 ships that we need: leadership and partnerships. So let's hope that now that we have made the launch, including today, of a website where it combines all of this together, we would now move much faster. I wonder if you have any questions that have been shared with us. Otherwise, in case any of the participants would like to comment or discuss some of the points made by the other participants that they've heard, I give you the opportunity to take the floor now. Just raise your hand in case you would like to do so. But if I don't see, you have the floor, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. I think what we have seen here is the willingness, and we see the partnerships being done. I think what Mr. Bakke pointed to us is we can show these explosions, and it might frighten the community. So I think we need to also include the society to get this fear out of the business. I think, and this is only my opinion, that if we were to discuss today, would we allow huge amounts of gasoline in place in automotive, passing through each other in 110 kilometers an hour? I think we would have struggles. So I agree with Mr. Bakke that we need to do this safe, and we will manage to do that. So don't frighten the community and say, oh, this is too scary. So that's one of my points. So in these partnerships, we need to include the society, I think, to see what is easy. Compared to gasoline, hydrogen is quite nice. It just explodes and it goes up. While methanol, for instance, burns with an invisible flame throughout. So it's different aspects. So the societal aspect needs to be taken in place. And I really agree with Mr. Carter saying that the value chain is important. And it's important to start because I hear in some discussions that we want to see the market, and players say we can produce hydrogen, but we want to see the market to take off. And then we see we want to see cheap hydrogen before we can start using it. So this is kind of different. So early movers include the entire value chain. I think is important for us to succeed in this just transition and also to get the price down. So that was all my only comments to that. Thank you.
I thank Madame Amont for that contribution. Yes, I think Professor Bakke's videos did show a certain scary angle of developing hydrogen. But I think it also drew attention to the fact that it is important to focus on safety while developing a hydrogen ecosystem. And that's a very valid point, which is why we do need these centers of excellence, so that it would be worse if somebody treats it, not as seriously as it deserves to be, the safety aspect, and thinks that they can just go ahead and start doing things with hydrogen, given the nature of the buoyant and flammable nature of the gas. So I see Professor Bakke, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I think that very soon now we have to start giving ourselves challenges. And as an example, and of course not exhaustive at all, but let me just share another slide. Can you see my slides now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay, good. So these are, how do you say, actions, proposed actions. We need to start going into this level now very soon. How do we address the issues that we have? We know we need to teach people. We know we need more people. So we need to start introducing master's programs. Well, in all engineering institutes, I think. How many engineers do we need? I don't know. Is it 100,000 by the next 5 years? Should decision makers and board of directors learn about hydrogen safety? Should they be really aware? Should we make capsule courses for them? Should we be setting up COEs in each state in India? And so on. I'm not going through the list because it's not exhaustive. It's just some points. But I think that we need to go this direction. Thank you.
Yes, I would entirely agree. I think at the very minimum, courses in hydrogen safety for our engineers would be hugely important. We can't go down this path without having everyone at all levels associated with the hydrogen ecosystem that we foresee being completely familiar. requisite safety aspects. I see Mr. Christian Valdez-Carter would like the floor. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. I think that Ms. Omot made a very valid point in emphasizing the importance of involving the community. I think that to be able to, let's say, have a license to operate, yes, it is important that hydrogen is safe. But I also think that it has another important side to it, and that is that it is able, that a new industry is able to create new jobs, replacing the jobs that we are kind of leaving, especially within fossils. So that I think that is also something that we need to emphasize, and it could be also something that could stimulate young people. I think that Dr. Barker had a very good suggestion in establishing master programs, not only within hydrogen, maybe, but within renewables, because hydrogen has, as we have seen today, many applications. It has a side, especially here in India, I would say, towards solar and also wind, and maybe in the future also offshore wind. So two very good, one valid point and one very good, a good suggestion. I also want to say that when we see how things have developed in Europe, and in particular in Norway, we see that ammonia is also kind of growing into a very exciting market. There are several pilot projects within the maritime industry that include the use of ammonia. And so I think that also kind of says that we need to have a kind of a holistic approach to this, because if we look back 5 years, 10 years, and we see what we know today, and we see kind of the pace that this development has achieved, and the momentum that it has now, I think that in 5 years and 10 years, there will be new applications and obviously new technologies and new innovations that will put us in a better position to scale this hydrogen ecosystem. So I don't know, Dr. Bakke, if you have any comments with respect to ammonia.
Not specifically, but of course, with regards to safety, ammonia, there is an issue there also. So that needs to be addressed in the same way. It is flammable, it's probably toxic, and yeah.
Well, I thank Mr. Carter for his comment, and Mr. Bakke for that clarification. Christian, you made an important point. We need a holistic approach, and it struck me that the organization whom I'm representing here today, TERI, also has a School of Advanced Studies where they do teach environmental and energy studies. So maybe there's a opportunity of cooperation there. I will certainly draw it to the attention. Yeah, I see. Is there a request for the floor, or those hands that remain to be put down?
Just a quick comment from my side, Excellency.
Please go ahead.
We're conducting a very interesting roundtable with TERI next week. So we are already cooperating and of course together with the business community. So look forward to that. And it is important in that respect to actually to commend the involvement from the research community in India, that not only has very interest in hydrogen, that kind of is a new industry, but it already has a lot of knowledge and has this international mindset. So we really appreciate the initiatives from players like TERI. So like I said, I think that we have a very good starting point here in India.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I had in mind that, TERI has also a School of Advanced Studies, like a university, and we should add this on in terms of safety, etc., hydrogen safety, into the courses that they have for students. We don't need anyone's approval to do that. I'll certainly immediately draw it to the attention of the Vice Chancellor. And Terry itself, obviously, is a partner in all of this, so there's no issue out there. Is there any other request for the floor? Well, I noted one thing in the discussion today. There was a kind of a passing reference by somebody to starting an international hydrogen alliance on the lines of the successful International Solar Alliance that India had inspired. So what is the feeling in this group? Is that worth exploring in parallel, or maybe a bit premature, or something that needs to be also thought of? Because I think all of this needs to go hand in hand, especially if you're planning to ratchet up. And I do believe that's important and correct, and do all of this much faster than anyone has done before. Would anyone have a comment on that? Or on any other issue that you would like to speak on?
It's a very, I think, Excellency, that's a good question. I think that a global hydrogen alliance is something that when assessing the need for it, we should ask ourselves, why not? What are the consequences of not doing it? I think that with the backdrop that we have with climate change, and that the situation in many ways is escalating around the world, I think we need to do what we can do. And if this is an initiative that has been launched, I think it's very worth exploring further. I think that also could in many ways establish a better common understanding on how we can develop a global hydrogen ecosystem, because that is important. Even though different countries, they have different infrastructure and they have, let's say, their own cultures and solutions, I think that in this respect, it is important that we establish this common understanding and that we all at least move in the right direction. So that could be a very interesting platform to explore further.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether anyone is exploring it at the moment or not, but yeah, I agree with you. I'm very happy that you responded positively to the suggestion. I do believe it would be useful, like India and France started off the International Solar Alliance. If India and Norway do something like this, it would help in projecting and moving things faster. And when we're talking of export, for example, our Prime Minister has spoken of that in terms of meeting our own requirements, energy requirements, and export. I think there's huge scope for doing things up there. And I'm sure somebody will pick it up, but I'll find ways of also passing it on to the Indian Ministry of External Affairs for their consideration. Ellie,
Actually,
would you like to make a comment? Please go ahead.
Yes, I haven't given it a thought until you just threw it out. And I think that might be a very good idea, because one of my concerns is this need for speed. And I can see one critical barrier if we're going to turn into this hydrogen economy. This is if we end up with different regulations in different parts of the world, this will be one very unfortunate barrier. So just only by trying to harmonize from the very beginning, the regulation might be an interesting topic for such an international alliance. That would be non-competitive. It would be not be trying to be level playing field for all the commercial activities. So I thought initially that, yeah, seems like a good idea. That's what, just I compliment you on that idea.
Thank you. I think, and you've put your finger on two important points, which I entirely agree with. This should be non-competitive. India traditionally tries to help out others. I mean, we take great pride in doing that. I spent many, many years promoting that point, that when we try and do something, we do hope countries understand that we're doing it with their goodwill in mind also. So not only non-competitive, but as you said, giving a level playing field for everyone. And not that everyone has to then start making different regulations, and then you find that, in different parts of the world, things are going in, pulling in different directions. So yeah, that's something that might be worth exploring, and I'll try and see how, in a small way, I can move it along. I see Mr. Sahdev hasn't jumped in. Maybe I can ask you a question or so. You have told us about some of the services your company provides for creating a commercial proposition relevant to the outputs that emerge from the anticipated or projected centers of excellence. Is there anything that strikes you now that you would like to add on as a point that Hydrogenium would like to project? Since you have...
Actually, to be very frank, you have taken a very valid question rather, which is called Hydrogen Alliance, Global Alliance. Actually, this is a very natural progression. You cannot go without it, because the whole ecosystem, global ecosystem of hydrogen have to be aligned together to create a possibility where you can have a price parity with the fossil fuel based energy. To create that, there is a demand side and a supply side situation which has to be met, and everybody doesn't have all the wherewithal of to actually achieve the whole environment into one go. So they will have to have an alliances. That's global alliance. I mean, like solar alliance, it reduce your tariff and the capital cost from $2 million per megawatt at one time to almost $0.8 million. So it's like 70% chip off from the cost. That is also going to be relevant when you are making hydrogen alliances or global alliance of hydrogen. That will be a natural progression as the development takes place, price factor comes down, and people are more getting aware to this usage. This will become an automatic affair. Have to be.
Thank you. I like the way you described it as a natural progression. Yeah. Indeed, it's a progression that can start right away. I don't think we need to wait. Like private companies, I have seen there is a global hydrogen alliance that exists, but not among states. It would be good if states which are deeply interested, and I see Norway and India as kind of logical partners in this, took some steps and tried to move this ahead, especially with COP26, just a little over 2 months away in Glasgow. This would be another worthwhile initiative that could be projected and may not be premature. I think it may just be very timely. Christian, you've asked for the floor. Please go ahead.
Yes. Again, a follow-up on the Hydrogen Alliance. I think that with the expected energy demand that we will have in the future, I think that there will be a market for everyone. So that is also kind of a point sparked from Ms. Omot's point on a non-competitive alliance, right? So I think that we, in that sense, have a lot to learn from the research community and academia that have this culture of sharing. The importance of achieving a hydrogen economy is so huge that I think that should be a place to start. And if we look at the clusters around the world, the best ones are the ones that are, let's see, the most transparent. That creates innovation, that creates alliances. So I think that should be one of the principles of such an alliance. So, and well, Norway, we are a very open economy. We have a culture of sharing. So I think that that could be a good start to explore this between Norway and India. But of course, that will be up to my government to decide.
Likewise, it would be for my government to decide. But I think we can make the suggestion. It seems, as you said, there's also a very important cultural affinity up there. in the way that our two countries function and operate. And so I see that we have come to the end of the time frame given to me. So I would like to thank, let me close the session by sincerely thanking each of my distinguished speakers for sharing their insights with us. I think we got one or two important new insights, including on those MSc courses, which I will follow up, and on this idea of having an international hydrogen alliance, interstate one, as different from the existing ones which may be there between companies and groups of organizations or research institutes. And a lot of very good points that I have heard. In fact, I'll have to sit down and put this all in my diary before I forget. And I wonder if some of you could share with us those presentations. I would really appreciate it. I'll send you a message as a follow-up, just just to remind. But I think they would be worth keeping on the record. So thank you to everyone. It has been an honor for me to share this session and to pick up your views and to share them around. And I do hope we could, in a small way, help move this hydrogen ecosystem idea forward, involving all stakeholders in a multidisciplinary way. Thank you, everyone. And with that, I bring the fourth session of the International Climate Summit 2021 to a close. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.